This week on Round 2 podcast, I sat down with Katie Hamilton Shaffer, the president and founder of Feast It Forward. Feast It Forward began as an idea in 2012 and is now a film, media, lifestyle, culinary experience adventure that is situated on a fabulous piece of real estate in the heart of Napa Valley. Katie exemplifies what it is to be an entrepreneur, having forged her own path and created something that did not exist before her. Fun fact, Katie and I grew up in the same town and have known each other for years. We were even in a mutual friend's wedding together back in 2011. It was such a treat to have Katie on the show, and I hope you all enjoy our conversation. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe for all things Round 2 podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and this week, my entrepreneur that I have in the studio with me is somebody that I have actually known for quite a long time. I'm here with Katie Hamilton Shaffer. We actually grew up in the same town and we're in high school together at the same time. So we have definitely been, connected thanks to social media for many, many years and have seen each other's paths to all the things that we've done in our lives. So it's very exciting to have her here because she has quite an interesting journey with her business. So Katie, welcome to the Round 2 podcast.
Hey, thank you. And I wish I could leap through the computer and be in Greece with you, but it's an honor to be here chatting and singing your face. Yay.
Oh, thank you. You too. It's been interesting when I first started this podcast and started thinking about different folks that would be great guests. The list just continues to grow and evolve. And you and I reconnected a few months ago when I had posted something on LinkedIn and you had commented on it. And then, due to the algorithm nature, right now I'm seeing your posts all the time. And so I thought, you know what, you always have something up your sleeve. You're always doing something new, growing your business in different ways. So I'm so excited to have you here to talk about everything that you've done with Feast. So share a little bit about how you got started in this business that has grown so tremendously.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I always go back to when people ask me this question and, when I get interviewed, it's kind of my dad, even though he's retired, he says, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and I was very adamant in being able to, and I feel very lucky because not everybody is able to live out their dream. But I feel very lucky in the sense that I've taken everything that I'm good at and love to do and combined it on a passion level into a business. And right, I mean, that's what many entrepreneurs do. But I think my journey started, I played competitive soccer my whole life, played on a soccer scholarship in college, on a brief break during summer, entered a singing competition and went to Nashville and was offered an interesting opportunity, shall we say, that I won't dive in too much, but considered pursuing the singing career. And then came back from summer, finished my soccer, and began to pursue the singing, but decided to play semi-pro soccer instead. So then I went the semi-pro soccer route. And then I hung up my cleats and decided, you know what? I always wanted to go to culinary school, but they never had a soccer team. So now I'm going to move to Napa and fulfill that culinary soccer, experience. So moving to Napa, that was kind of the opportunity to say, okay, I tried out the singing thing, which happened very quickly. I played, at a very high level of soccer. And then I moved to Napa to pursue that that cooking culinary side. And Napa, I just fell in love with. And so the culmination of Feast It Forward is taking everything I've loved to do. And we're a network. We're a lifestyle and entertainment network. And we film with musicians, chefs, actors, athletes. And our network is web-based. And now I don't have to be in a linear direction and only be a singer, only be an athlete, only be, a chef.
Right.
And so, there's a multitude of ways you can explain the business, but that's kind of the quick version of I tried everything and was lucky to be able to try everything and then determined that I'm going to create a business around everything I love to do.
I mean, I think that is so cool. I mean, I kind of wrote down after, thinking about what I have known that you've been doing through the last 20 or so years. And then also when I was reading through your company deck, and I wrote truly a creative at heart, and, you know, with like your doodles that you'll share when you're mapping out your next idea, and with singing. I mean, I remember the first time I heard you sing when we were in Hawaii for Casey and Armando's wedding. And I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, you can also sing? Like, what is going on here? So it's so cool to see how you've built this from, you know, starting. I remember when you first showed the picture of the feast logo with the fork and the wine glass, and to just watch it continue to grow in such an incredible location in Napa Valley has been really cool as just a bystander. So talk to me a little bit more about, you know, your guys' core, kind of like core, like what I wrote down, like with the live streaming aspect. So is it kind of like a Twitch for brands in your like food and wine space, or give me some more info on that?
Yeah. So I think, you know, I was in discussions early on with an actual syndicated network, and it became apparent if I went that direction, I wouldn't have the autonomy to do as I wanted. Really, I'd be told to work with X sponsor and X talent, celebrity. So we are completely web-based. We have 10 shows that we produce. We have a series with Jacques Pepin. So there's our high budget production, you know, post-production editing series, alike any network you watch, right? I mean, there's handfuls of networks, and those are all, they take quite a bit of time to produce and edit and release. So there's our actual network production shows, and then there's the live streams. And the live streams, you know, I kind of relate to Vegas, where it's like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You know, so it's like what happens on camera stays on camera, where I'm live. I'm live with a musician or whoever. So physically on our property, if anybody visits here, which I hope you do, we're kind of Napa's Disneyland. We're this enormous campus where my film studio is upstairs. We go live with a multitude of talent, and an audience can be seated, and that ticket that they pay goes to the celebrity's charity of choice. That's where the It Forward lines in.
Cool.
But then you have our series with Jacques Pepin that was a high budget series, and we're about to announce another talent coming on board that will have a lengthy series with us. So, you know, you can choose the shows. You can watch the music shows, you can watch our live shows, or you can watch my network is just behind us here, our cocktail show, Drinks with a Twist. So, you know, in general, we are a network, but the physical property is what brings the network to life. And people can look at when they want to come, be a ticketed audience member, or they can choose to just watch our shows online that monetize through YouTube.
Okay. So are you putting out shows every day of the week? Is it certain days of the week, or how?
No,
how does that
to be honest, we've been still finishing up. Yeah, we just finished editing another series that we'll be releasing. We're just lining up our new live shows that will be available upstairs. So pre-pandemic, we were doing it consistently. Pandemic hit, and my focus basically became expanding to the Yard, which is our concert venue, and that really has just finished completion. So now we're about to start filming again, where everything is succinct with our network, our releases, the talent we're onboarding, and then the live shows that people can come to Napa and actually experience.
That's so much fun. So, you know, I remember one thing with the, you know, giving back aspect of your business, you know, that's always been a part of who you are at your core. And how did you, you know, was philanthropy something that was a part of your life as a kid? Was it always something that you were really involved in, or how did you get this, you know, that part of you that is so strong and big that's become a core tenet of the business?
Yeah, when I moved, yes, I mean, my parents were always very giving. I think nurturing in itself is giving back in a way, of course. And my father is very heavily involved in local community efforts in Davis, where we grew up. But it really hit home when I moved to Napa, and my mentor's daughter was diagnosed with a rare neurological disorder called Rett syndrome. And, you know, having had my experiences in music and sports and my goal to entertain in the culinary world, having moved to Napa, we decided to do an annual event called Erica's Dream that would eventually fund the Katie's Clinic at Oakland Children's Hospital, which still exists to this day, that is the main location on the West Coast to support girls with this Rett syndrome. And so it turned into an annual huge soiree that's wonderful, that raised money for this cause. And so after doing that, it was kind of obvious that, okay, I have all these passions. I'm not gonna be Derek Jeter. You know, women's sports are a bit different. I don't really care to pursue a singing career. And I love Napa, and how could I entertain and give back in a way that would really take everything I love? And so that was, again, the culmination of Feast, but it really rose from this horrible situation that is still affected to my dear friends to this day, and these girls around the United States and world that are diagnosed with this. So that was where I was like, okay, I can create, I can give back, I can entertain. And so Erica's Dream was that first big, like, pulling in music, pulling in food, pulling in vintners, pulling in drinks, pulling in entertainment, and raising money for a good cause. So Feast It Forward is really my way to satisfy that ongoing drive and commitment to giving back and allowing people in my life and entertainers of certain magnitudes and platforms that come through Napa to be in front of a live audience to raise money for charity. But it's almost like going on the Jimmy Fallon show, right? I'm certainly not Jimmy Fallon, but I hope to get to the point where people are wanting to come onto the show and give back and be able to entertain the masses. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's a wonderful thing. And, you know, I think it's so cool to be able to combine so many different things into one space. So, you know, from an entrepreneurship perspective, right? I think anybody who knows or who is an entrepreneur, and I certainly have a large audience of entrepreneurs, everyone knows that it is not for the faint of heart. There are so many challenges, so many struggles. So as you were out building all of this, when you look back now, because what year did you found Feast It Forward?
Inception 2012. It was a side hustle until really 2015, and then established it as a legitimate company with investors in 2016. And then started construction on this, which took 2 years. It took 2 years to build this physical property. So we opened in 2018, the first studio portion, and then COVID 2021 construction in the back. So it's been, like you said, it's not for the faint at heart.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about that, it's so, you know, you think about, there's so much we see online, right? And everyone always says like social media is fake and you only see the highlight reel and you see all these like big, exciting things. But what so many people don't know, unless they're living it alongside you, is everything it took from idea to actually doing it, you know, getting to a point where you have raised money. And also raising money, that is not something that just happens, right? You have to have a network, you have to be talking to people, you have to sell people on your idea. So as you look back on, you know, those early years where you said, you know, hey, here's this idea I have. And then as you continued on with it and thought, this could really be something, what are some things that you think about that you know now that if you could give your younger self advice, what would you share?
You know, I do everything I still do to this day. I always say my husband is an insurance broker and he's so good at it, but he packs the parachute on the edge of the cliff where I'm like, I'm going to jump and find the parachute. And I think that is entrepreneurship in a very quick explanation of, there are many times that I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I know I will. And so what I would tell my younger self is just continue to be true to yourself. Because there were times, sometimes I felt like I wasn't being authentic because other people, you know, the bottom line is when you're doing something that doesn't exist, and you can see around the corner and nobody else can, it's going to take them a long time to catch up to you. And there are still many people,
Yep.
I would say the general people in the bigger picture of where Feast is going that still don't quite comprehend what I'm doing. And that is okay. But in the beginning, I felt like I was, okay, Katie, like, why are there naysayers? Maybe you do need to change direction a little bit. And I caught up in a little bit of that. Can I curse on this show? I don't know.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah, go for it. Go for
bullshit,
it.
the real fucking bullshit of people that are naysayers and aren't an entrepreneur because they don't understand. And that's okay. You don't need to understand. So I wasn't authentic in the beginning with some things and decisions I made. Now, oh man, I don't care if you don't agree or believe. I am so defiant and I have done everything I'm going to say. And so I would just say, you know what, back then, when I'm looking back, I should have just remained authentic. And I am beyond authentic now, which I think can be misconstrued as egotistical, but it is absolute confidence in knowing that you are doing what you're meant to do and you have zero thought about failing, because failure is an option. And when I failed and I've fallen, it happens all the time. I get up and I wipe myself off, and I think that's the competitive athlete in me. And I think failure is a building block towards success. And has it been perfect? No. Is it going to be perfect moving forward? No. But yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing I would tell myself is, no, don't feed into the bullshit. Don't feed into the people that aren't seeing around the corner, because you know what? They're going to come around the corner eventually and be like, wow, like that's what she said the whole time.
Totally. Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. And I mean, I have to say, like, do you feel like a little bit of the kind of, hey, like, I don't really care what anyone else is thinking about what I'm doing? It has a little bit to do with age. I mean, I know for me, I personally, once I turned 40, it was like the last fuck flew out the window. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait a minute. Now I don't have to care. And I feel like with each year, there's been more and more. And I also feel like with each decision that I make, like, just like you said, that probably doesn't make sense to other people, but the more it makes sense to me and the more that I know I'm living my life on the path that makes the most sense for me, I'm like, my confidence just grows leaps and bounds. And I just am like, cool, I don't care that nobody gives a shit or nobody understands why I'm doing what I'm doing, because this makes sense to me.
I think I never have given a fuck, honestly. I think that I'm just more confident in the fuck. Like,
there you go.
I've always known what I was going to do and what I felt. Just, I would always go after something, like trying to be a Nashville country singer. Like, I just went for it. Like, my dad was like, you've never sung before. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to try. And then it started to actually become a real thing. So I've tried everything. Like, am I going to be a professional basketball player? Absolutely not. But I've tried everything that I thought I was relatively good at and succeeded. And that helped me establish what I wanted to be and do. But I think, to your point, I've always been confident and felt I could try anything. But now I'm even more confident in saying, you know what, if you don't agree and you don't believe. Now, if I was making complete rash, inappropriate decisions as a company, then my team would be around me being like, what are you doing, right? But I feel like I'm at the point where there's been a proof of concept. I'm still standing even stronger now after COVID. And is it easy? No. But I thrive off of that fire to continue. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that each year we grow and we get more confident.
I also loved what you said about failure, because I personally think that failure is like the greatest teacher, and it's like the best, like the periods of growth. I mean, when things go well, it's like, okay, great. This is going well. I'm loving this. This is good. But failure is the greatest teacher. And I mean, I even said, it was really funny. A few months ago, things were going really well. I was really happy. And I just was having a conversation with one of my friends, and I just happened to say, I was like, I'm like, Things are going really well, and they have been for a while. Like, I'm kind of wondering, like, what's going to happen next?
What's
Like,
gonna
what
happen?
what am I supposed to learn? I know there's got to be something on the horizon. And then sure enough, but it's good because I look back and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yep,
like that's what I was meant to learn. That's what it was meant to teach me. And then I could just pick myself up and keep going and keep moving forward. And I think with business too, it's like sometimes people
absolutely.
are so afraid to fail. And what I always remind people is that, like, for 99% of those things, like, nobody knows that when you've had a failure, like, nobody knows. It's like when you go to an event or you go to a wedding, only the people who planned it know exactly what's supposed to happen at every step of the way. But if one little thing goes wrong, it's like nobody knows except you. They're just having fun. They're happy they're there. They've got a cocktail in their hand. So trying not to, like, worry that everyone has you under this microscope, because, like, they really don't.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think failure is, I don't think parents have taught failure to be a stepping stone. I think
Mm-hmm.
growing up, I was able to just try things, and I think that that's naturally with being an athlete too. You lose. You're not going to win every match. You're not going to win every game, right? And
Uh-huh.
so
Totally.
sometimes getting socked in the mouth tastes good because you're like, ooh, the next one I'm going to get, right? Lick the blood, taste it, and be
Yeah.
like, I feel like in the beginning too, in growing this, because there is zero concept that exists in the manner of what this physical property that we can get into. And so I think that I was used to like hearing no and going, no, that's not going to work. And for some reason, I got off on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really bizarre. I'm like, you know what? If you don't believe in me, then, ooh, man, I think on my Instagram it says say no and watch me go, because there's something about no that really is
Oh, I
like
love that.
I love it.
Uh-huh.
And anybody that's worked with me
Fuels your
now is like,
fire.
yeah, fuels my fire. That knows when Katie says something. Again,
Mm-hmm.
if I say I'm going to go to the moon, that's not going to happen, right? But in relative
You
to
never know. You
business
never
and
know.
what I know, I'm yeah, maybe a feet step forward rocket. Maybe we'll sponsor Elon's next rocket.
There you go. There you go.
But yeah, I think failure is very important, and I have taught my children that too. As a mom, it's extremely
Mm-hmm.
important to be there. Too many, as Gary Vee says, too many ninth place trophies are given out. You didn't
Oh
win.
gosh.
It's okay.
That is so true. I mean, I remember, playing sports in high school. And if I had a problem with, if I came home from practice and I was in a bad mood, or if I was upset with my coach, my parents were like, go talk to her, go talk to him. Like, it wasn't like mom and dad to the
Mm-hmm.
rescue. It was like, you have a problem with something, like, work harder. Maybe they're not playing you because maybe you're not as good as the girl they're playing instead. So work harder, it's a
Mm-hmm.
part of it. And I think that sports teach such valuable lessons in that. And yeah, there's only one winner. I mean, I don't know, like you said, those ninth place trophies, it's like, come on.
Yeah. 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 It's important, but yeah, failure.
So yeah, I've got a question about your guys' location, because I would say that you're arguably one of the best locations in the downtown Napa area, if not the valley itself. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys are right across from Oxbow. You're right by the river. You're by some great hotels. So when you were out looking for space, or I mean, I guess land, right? I mean, was there a building there that you improved upon and then you've just continued to expand? Like, how did you come across that location and, build out your vision?
Yeah, it was. In fact, you can visit our website on the virtual tour and see what it was and what it became.
Mm-hmm.
It was a four-story, or four-story. It was a two-story, kind of had a basement, and the four walls are what we had to rip up to keep, to make it not a rebuild, or it was just a remodel, right? It wasn't a new build.
Oh,
So
okay.
it looked like a
Uh-huh.
genuine crack house. It was horrific, and the entire property was, yeah, it was quite funny. So we had to basically lift up the whole house, and which was in shambles, and remove everything but the
Mm-hmm.
four based walls, shift the house over towards the river wall.
Oh, wow.
Build the bottom floor here, build the walls,
Okay.
lift the 4 floors on top, and then build the deck. So it still took
Oh my gosh.
2 years to build that.
Wow.
But it was considered a remodel because the 4 walls were kept, and that was remodeled, and the whole inside. I mean, so nothing existed except for the structured walls that was moved on top, and then everything was built down here and then all above there. So from the outside eye, when you see the remodeling, it was really just the 4 poles and the existing house that was completely gutted and renovated into the new concept. Yeah. So to your question though.
So then did you originally start? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, go on.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, did you start and did you start with the entire footprint of that property that you have now, or did you slowly expand and like, I don't know if you leased it or bought it and expand that way, or was it always that massive property and then you've just built upon it as you've grown?
So it was always just here, which was attached to an existing property that was also not developed. And so when this was built and then COVID happened and nothing was taking place back there, that became an opportunity to say, okay, these are connected. Technically, they could be conjoined into one property. And it was a huge parking lot, which now is our huge concert venue. And the silver lining there is the city, thanks to Napa, would have never allowed me to develop a concert venue from a parking lot because parking is very difficult around here in the first place. So it was an office building and a parking lot. Nothing existed, and basically turned that into now what brings our on-camera shows to life in a more festival entertainment venue. And so, yeah, we're kind of in an L footprint, but as you said, we're right next to Oxbow. We're right next to the iconic wine train, the Culinary Institute of America. And the traffic is significant, and so we're lucky to be able to have a foothold in a place that's growing too. I mean, downtown Napa is growing significantly.
That is so awesome. I mean, I just every time I go to Oxbow and I see, which I mean, I wish was more often. I feel like such a snob sometimes saying like, oh yeah, I can drive to Napa for lunch or I can drive to Napa for dinner when people come from all over the world to go to Napa. And I'm like, oh, it's literally like an hour from where I live. But yeah, I'm always just like, man, she got this location is so prime. So it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
So recently you guys had a festival, right? With cookbooks and chefs. And so tell me a little bit more about that, because I was really bummed that I couldn't make it because it sounded really awesome. And I saw your summary after the fact. It looked like it was a huge success. So why don't you tell a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Cookbook Fest, it will be an annual event. It's myself and 2 other partners, co-founders. And the origination came from my partner, Brian Hogan Stewart, who has the top podcast on cookbooks and in the nation. And so he has, every chef you could imagine on his podcast called Salt and Spine.
Nice.
And he came to me and was like, listen, I've got this great podcast. There's no festival that brings cookbooks to life. And so Cookbook Fest was born. This is kind of the home to it, which we can house a great deal of people. So it's kind of, my joke is it's like a music festival had sex with a bookstore, because we had incredible entertainment. All of these chefs from all around the nation that we flew in, live shows for an audience in our film studio. Tyler Florence had this huge barbecue throwdown called Masters of Fire. Martin Yan and I did this great event upstairs in the studio. So there were over 50 chefs and cookbooks, and we had really incredible conversations on our stage in the yard. And so kind of in TED Talk style, were discussions about climate change and recipe development and photography for cookbooks, right? That's very important. So it was, like Comic-Con meets, a food experience for bookstores. They were all incredible authors from all walks of life. Some huge names, others, are just coming out from the woodwork that are defining the moments of cuisine. And so it was very special, and it will be an annual event that people should look out for. And yeah, it was a real honor to host that here, and I look forward to it growing.
That's so cool. I love it because, I feel like cookbooks, obviously like there's books abundant, right, in all topics and whatnot, but with the invention of the Audible, being able to listen to books on the go in your car or through your phone, but a cookbook is kind of one of those things that you really feel like you still need to have in your hands and flip the pages and bookmark things and jot down notes after you've made a recipe. So I feel like cookbooks are so just like are something that's going to stand the test of time, because you got to have it in front of you when you're making those recipes.
Yep.
And the photography thing that you mentioned, I love too, because I was, when I was packing up my house before I came over to Europe, I was packing up some cookbooks and I was flipping through some of the older ones. And I thought, oh my gosh, food photography has come so far, because some of these pictures looked like they were taken with, the first iteration of the iPhone.
Oh my gosh. Can I go grab something right here that I want to show you? Hold on. I know we're breaking the pot, but I'm going to show you. Yeah. I'm going to show you this book. Hold on.
That's okay. No, do it. I love it. That's why podcasts are fun. There's no rules. We can just do whatever we want.
I'm going to manifest this right here. So my mother-in-law gave me Betty Crocker's cookbook for boys and girls. Okay. I want to turn this into our next show. And this is some of the photography that is so, this is from, it's like, do you think that looks good? No, it really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
but it's so amazing. I basically want to dress in these clothes.
Yeah.
And have my kids dress. Look at that.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That is not appetizing. So obviously when this came out, and my mother-in-law was, I think she said she was 5 or 6. And I would love to bring this entire book to life.
That's so cool that she had it to give to you.
Look at that. It's just, it's hilarious. So anyway, I'm manifesting that with you right now, because Betty Crocker needs this to come to life with the clothes and the characters. And, but it has come so far. I'm looking at the green Jell-O in here, and it's like that is not something any chef would ever do now. So it was fascinating talking to those photographers and chefs and recipe developers. It's so important, because if anything is off, or you have the wrong light, or it was very special in that sense, that it was all different walks of life. It wasn't just these celebrity chefs. It was these people who have held these people up, and publishers that work with all of these talents and telling their story. Again, we'll be doing it year after year, and very excited to start taking that on soon.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it. Food is such an interesting thing. Now here's a question for you, because, having gone to culinary school and, I've seen photos of, when you're cooking and things that you've done, and you obviously know your way around the kitchen and can make some really fantastic stuff. Now, I like to say that I'm like above average cook. I obviously haven't gone to culinary school, but I've got a good little repertoire of things that I do very, very well. And I love having people over for dinner, right? So one of the things that I have noticed over the last few years is that I only have one friend who invites me over for dinner, and they are significantly better cooks than I. Everyone else never invites me over for dinner. And I think it's because they're like, oh my God, you're such a good cook. I can't invite you over, because what am I going to make you? Macaroni and cheese? So I'm curious, for someone like you, who is much better than I, do you feel that the same way? Or are you just because you're in the Valley, all your buddies are also amazing chefs, so they're like, come by for dinner?
Well, clarification. So I didn't go to culinary school. I wanted to go to culinary school, but they didn't have a soccer team. So I didn't go to culinary school, even though I applied. No. So that was always.
Okay, I thought that you said that you went and then you after.
No,
the fact. Got it.
I applied.
Okay.
but I took a soccer scholarship. So the culinary school that I applied for didn't have a soccer team. So naturally, having played competitive my whole life, I wasn't. So, so I feel very grateful because I naturally just love to cook and entertain, and I wanted to do something in that realm. So some of my greatest teachers have been some of the best. Like, I've been to Jacques Pepin's home and cooked in the kitchen with him, and his daughter Claudine and his son-in-law Raleigh, and being taught how to make stir-fry noodles with Martin Yan, and the legendary Rick Moonen. I mean, the list goes on. So I call myself a really great cook. I didn't have the proper training, but I've been able to work with some of the best around to teach me. And I naturally always was good at cooking. But, I have friends in the Valley that are Michelin star chefs and incredible cooks, but I also have friends that have nothing to do with hospitality in the business or in the Valley. So when we all get together, it's like one of my best friends is a nurse, and she is a really great cook. But so I think that it's about who's sitting at the table and the conversations that are had. And I think that that's naturally, like this conversation, it's important to get to know people. And sometimes it's best having to do that over a glass of wine or cocktail and food. So, yeah, I never feel.
I know. I was thinking. Yeah. No, sorry. I know we have a slight delay. I was thinking when I was about to get on with you, I was like, oh, I should pour myself a glass of wine. And then I was like, oh, it's morning in California. I probably shouldn't.
I mean, honestly,
if we were in the same time zone, we could be sitting and doing this in person.
I would have joined you. Next time we'll do it in person. Oh, that's funny.
Yes,
I've got a big thing of water
speaking
right here.
of wine, though, there you go. So speaking of wine, though, now one of your first businesses in the Valley was a wine brand called Toolbox Wine. And I remember, I think I actually told you a few months ago that I still had that email saved in your contact in my phone.
Oh my God.
So do you ever have aspirations of doing a wine label again? Is that something that you see in your future?
No, I mean, I support so many brands here, most importantly, Lane and Be Wise, who are my top sponsors and also investors. Talking about failure, like that, it didn't fail, it was bought, but I wanted to take it to the next level. And my partners didn't want to. And so, from a wine or libation perspective, I feel like I'm embracing all of these partners around me, and I can kind of live through that because wine is a core of this company. But the wine business is changing and evolving, and there are so many brands out there, and I would rather advocate for boutique brands and businesses than just adding another to the repertoire. I did it and it was fun.
No,
and
makes sense.
I wish I could have taken it to the great heights I think it could have gone to, but no, zero aspirations. And those are the kind of decisions I could just say like, nope, no, I have no feelings towards that, or sure, like that sounds fun, right? But not at all.
Yeah. No. I totally understand your whole thought process behind all of that.
Yeah.
So I've got one more question for you before we wrap up. So I had asked you earlier about, if you had any advice for your younger self, and you talked about, just going for it and being yourself and being authentic. Now, the question that I often ask entrepreneurs that have been in the game for a long time and have gone through some shit and seen some shit is, what advice would you give to a young aspiring entrepreneur who's just about to dip their toe into these waters? What would you tell them as they're starting off on this and having all those first day jitters?
I would say embrace failure. You're not judged by your past or your present. And so know that anytime you fall on your face, you're going to need to get up and wipe yourself off, and that is going to happen. But you need to learn from it and know how to take the next step and reflect on what happened and how to learn from that. And then also just surround yourself with people who believe, because there are going to be a lot of people that don't see around the corner. and you can't let that deflate your balloon. And so I think that it's very important to remain authentic, embrace failure, learn from it, and surround yourself by people that care about you, that you trust, and you know, take a leap of faith and go with intuition is so important. I think go with your gut too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Very
I love
important.
that's great advice. I think that is so huge to really, and I think that, you know, being able to listen to being able to listen to yourself, this is a piece of advice that I often give people, is you really have to take the time to get to know yourself. Because I always say that awareness is the first step to anything. And I think that being aware of like who you are, how you react in certain situations, how you're going to handle adversity, how you're going to handle the struggles, failure, all of that, it boils down to that level of self-awareness. And I think when you have that, that's when you really do tap into your intuition and you can trust your gut and know like, this probably isn't the right thing. Let's look this direction instead.
100%.
So this has been so much fun. I have loved this conversation like I knew I would, but I mean, I learned so much about you and about the business. How can people keep up with all things Feast It Forward?
Yeah, I mean, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Check out our website, feastitforward.com, and you can click on shows and it'll show all of our network productions. We are changing our model and we're going private. So people will have to become members to be able to visit here. And there's a lot of that information online as well. But there'll be a lot of exciting announcements for big time entertainment concerts in the back and also our new live shows taking place in the studio. So yeah, just check out the site. And if you're visiting Napa, try to become a member for the day or month or year and come check it out.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Katie, so much for being here. It was lovely having you. And thanks everybody for listening. And if you have not already, please subscribe and sound off in the comments. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, if you want to learn more, I will be answering all of those. So thanks again. And we will see you guys next week.